a husband. I miss my family. I miss having a husband. And I miss my husband. I don't want just any husband. I want my husband. Mine. Miss mine. I miss mine. Mine. I don't know why. I'm really stuck. No, you guys are sick of this. You guys are so sick of this. I don't blame you. I don't know how to replace my husband. I don't know how. I'm lonely. I'm sad. I miss my family.
Just fell in the parking lot of Walmart. And I went to grab my phone in that moment that I was hurting. And I wanted to call my husband and cry to him and have him comfort me like he always had after 25 years. The first thing I wanted to do was call him. And then I realized that he's not mine to call anymore. And how alone I really am. And it sucks. It really sucks. And I haven't been able to stop crying since. And I'm fine. But it sucks so bad.
So in November, I decided I no longer wanted to be a responsible parent, and I gave up my kids. I was just tired of being responsible and caring for them. I felt like I was too young and I wanted to go out there and experience life, and I started dating someone else, so it just didn't fit with my new lifestyle. And I didn't have anything to worry about because the other parent is a very responsible parent. But now I'm here because now I'm on child support, and to top it off, I'm really pissed off that I took care of them all the way up to November and I couldn't claim them on my taxes because the other parent had already claimed them.
Imagine this. One day, you wake up, look around, and realize the entire world has quietly flipped upside down while everyone was busy arguing on social media. The thing that used to be the foundation of every civilization for thousands of years, the thing every society told men they had to chase, protect, and sacrifice everything for, that thing is now collapsing faster than anyone thought possible. And the people who spent decades screaming that they didn't need it are suddenly the same ones running around in absolute panic, begging for it to come back. I'm talking about marriage, family, and the relationship between men and women. And right now, today, in real time, men all over the planet are walking away from it in numbers so large that governments are literally rewriting laws overnight to try and slow the avalanche. But here's the part that will keep you watching until the very last second, no matter how uncomfortable it gets. This is not stopping, it is only accelerating, and by the time we reach the end of this video, you're going to see undeniable proof that the old system is already dead. A new one is rising, whether anyone likes it or not, and the only question left is which side of history is going to say you chose when everything changed. If you want to make sure you never miss a single video the second it drops, smash that like button right now. Share this with every man you know who needs to hear the truth. Subscribe, and most importantly, click the bell and select all so YouTube actually shows you when I post. The algorithm hates channels that tell the truth, so we have to fight back together. Also, if you want to learn how to actually protect everything you are working for, how to safeguard your assets and grow real wealth in this chaotic economy, go check out Angry's Crypto Academy right now. The full academy is linked in the description below. We teach you step by step how to buy, sell, trade, and store cryptocurrency the right way so no one can ever take it from you. Click that link and get started today. And if you are enjoying these videos and you want to keep the Angry Guy caffeinated and making more of them, you can buy me a Red Bull with the link down below. Everything keeps the fire lit, and I appreciate every single one of you who throws some energy my way. Now let's get into it. Men are divorcing their wives at a speed that is honestly difficult to wrap your head around, unless you have been paying very close attention for the last few years. We all saw the first wave. It started with men quietly deciding that dating just wasn't worth the risk anymore. Then it moved to men refusing to cohabitate. Then men started saying no to engagement and marriage altogether. Most people laughed and said, "Good luck with that. They'll come crawling back when they get lonely." Except they didn't come crawling back. Instead, something far more extreme started happening. Married men, men who already took the vows, signed the papers, had the kids, bought the house, did everything society told them they were supposed to do. Those men started standing up, looking their wives dead in the eye and saying, "I'm done," and filing the paperwork to walk away. And it is not just a few angry guys in some Reddit forum. It is happening on a global scale, in every culture, in every economic class, all at the same time. Let me paint the picture for you with real numbers and real stories so you can feel how massive this shift actually is. In the United States, divorce rates had been slowly drifting downward for years because fewer people were getting married in the first place. Everyone thought, oh, the divorce problem is solving itself. Wrong. What actually happened is the remaining men who were still married woke up, looked at the legal system, looked at what happened to their friends, looked at the complete lack of respect or appreciation in their own homes, and said, if young guys aren't signing up, why am I still here taking this punishment? And they started leaving in droves. Family court attorneys across the country report that for the first time in decades, they are seeing a flood of divorce filings coming from men, not women. The initiator flipped. That has never happened before in recorded history at this scale. Move over to Australia, and the numbers are even more extreme. Australian men are filing for divorce at rates that have government officials openly panicking in parliamentary hearings. They keep using words like demographic crisis and marriage strike in official documents now. Think about that. A first world Western nation is admitting on paper that men have gone on strike against marriage, and no one knows how to turn it back on. But the real earthquake, the one that should make every single person watching this sit up straight, is what is happening right now in China. China just changed their divorce laws in 2021 to make it almost impossible for a woman to walk away with half a man's premarital property or force him to pay alimony forever. The government openly said the purpose of the new law was to protect men's wealth and make marriage less dangerous for them. Translation: even the Chinese Communist Party looked at the data, saw men refusing to marry at all, saw birth rates collapsing, and decided the only way to save the system was to throw women under the bus and give men a better deal. Do you know what happened next? Chinese men looked at the new laws, shrugged, and said, nice try, still not worth it. And divorce rates still exploded higher anyway. In 2024 alone, divorce filings in major Chinese cities jumped over 13% year over year, even with the new protections for men. The government literally handed men a golden parachute, and men still jumped out of the plane without it because staying married felt worse than losing money. I want you to really let that sink in. A culture that spent 70 years telling men their entire worth is tied to providing, sacrificing, and obeying the collective. Just watched millions of those same men stand up and say, I would rather be broke and alone than stay in this marriage one more day. That is not anger talking. That is not some temporary tantrum. That is the sound of an entire gender reaching a breaking point that cannot be negotiated with, bribed, or shamed back into place. And the stories coming out of China right now are absolutely heartbreaking. If you still have any humanity left in you, little kids are posting videos on Douyin, the Chinese TikTok, crying on camera, asking why daddy to come home, saying they don't understand why mommy and daddy don't live together anymore. Teenagers are going live talking about how their fathers just disappeared one day, moved to a different province, changed their phone number, and started a new life because staying married felt like a slow death. Grown women, women in their 40s and 50s, who spent decades believing the feminist talking points that were imported from the West, are now posting videos sobbing that they can't afford rent anymore because their ex-husband stopped paying once the kids turned 18 and the court can't force them anymore. They truly believed men had no choice but to stay and take the abuse, pay the bills, and die quietly. They woke up one day and discovered men do have a choice, and millions of us are making it. This is not just a trend, this is the biggest silent revolution in human history, and almost no one in mainstream media wants to say it out loud because the implications are too terrifying. When men decide that peaceful, quiet withdrawal is better than staying in the fight, civilizations do not recover. Every empire that fell in history had one thing in common long before the barbarians showed up at the gates. The men inside the walls stopped believing it was worth defending. Rome didn't fall because of lead pipes or too many wars. It fell because Roman men stopped getting married, stopped having children, and stopped caring whether Rome survived them. We are watching the exact same script play out again, except this time it is global and it is happening in fast forward. Think about the panic that must be going on behind closed doors right now. Imagine being a high level government advisor in Beijing or Canberra or Washington and realizing that no law, no financial incentive, no amount of propaganda or public shaming can make men want to come back once they have tasted peace. You can threaten them, you can take their money, you can parade their children on television crying, and they still choose to walk. That is raw power that no dictatorship and no democracy has ever figured out how to control. You cannot force a man to love something that hates him. You cannot draft him into a war against himself and expect him to fight hard. A man without hope for a family he can lead, without respect from the woman sleeping next to him, without belief that his sacrifice means anything, that man will simply disappear into video games, side hustles, crypto gains, the gym, his buddies, or the wilderness. And he will smile while the world burns because at least he is finally warm. And the craziest part, the part that should make every woman watching this video feel ice water in her veins, is that men aren't even doing this out of spite anymore. The first wave was angry, the second wave was bitter. Hey guys, in a world pushing you to own nothing and be happy, crypto is your key to survival. Join Angry's Crypto Academy to master buying, selling, and trading crypto. Make huge profits and safeguard your wealth. Plus, discover the one crypto virtually no one is talking about, poised to create new millionaires in the upcoming bull run. The link is in the description of the video below. Go check it out now. This third wave, the one we are in right now, is calm. These men are not screaming on the way out the door. They are not begging or bargaining or blowing up their lives with affairs or drama. They are filling out paperwork, moving into a small apartment, hitting the gym, building wealth, traveling with their friends, and sleeping like babies at night for the first time in 20 years. They are happy. That is what terrifies the system more than any riot ever could. Happy men who no longer need female approval or government validation are the most dangerous force on earth because there is literally nothing left to threaten them with. You want to know how I know this is irreversible? Because I have talked to hundreds of them personally. I have read thousands of their stories in my DMs, in the comments, in private forums. The script is almost identical every single time. He wakes up one day, usually around age 38 to 45, looks at the woman across the breakfast table who hasn't said a kind word to him in years, looks at the kids who have been taught to see him as a walking ATM, looks at the legal system waiting to destroy him if he makes one wrong move, and something inside him just switches off. Not rage, not hate, just a quiet click, like a light going out in a room you know you will never sleep in again. And from that moment forward, every decision he makes is about one thing and one thing only: peace. He will lose half his money, half his time with his kids, half his social circle, whatever it takes, because peace is worth more than all of it put together. And once a man has that peace for 6 months, a year, 2 years, there is no going back. You could hand him a unicorn wife tomorrow. Young, sweet, submissive, everything he ever dreamed of, and he would still say no thank you because he already knows the cost of admission. He already knows the game is rigged. He already paid the price once and almost didn't survive it. Never again. That is the new reality, and it is spreading like wildfire because men are sharing the blueprint with each other every single day. Young guys are watching their dads and their uncles and their bosses walk away and come out the other side stronger, happier, richer, more jacked, with hotter, younger girlfriends, or just blissful solitude. And those young guys are saying, if they can do it, so can I. Except I'm going to be smart and never sign the contract in the first place. And that is why marriage rates keep crashing, birth rates keep crashing, and female loneliness keeps skyrocketing, no matter how many articles get written about how women are thriving on their own. They are not thriving, they are coping. There is a difference. Let me take you back to 2019 for a second so you can see how fast this flipped. Back then, the narrative was that men were the ones terrified of being alone. Men were the ones who couldn't handle a strong, independent woman. Men were the ones who needed to step up and commit. Fast forward to 2025, and TikTok is flooded with women in their late 20s and 30s openly weeping because no man will even approach them in public anymore. Women who are objectively attractive, good jobs, nice personalities, literally begging on camera, where have all the good men gone? And the answer is simple. The good men looked at what happened to their fathers, looked at the divorce statistics, looked at the way society treats husbands like disposable utilities, and they chose themselves instead. And now, the same women who spent years saying, I don't need no man, are finding out what happens when millions of men take them at their word. And the panic is now completely out in the open. You cannot scroll through any social media platform in 2025 without running into at least a dozen videos of women in full meltdown mode asking the same questions over and over again. Why won't men commit? Why won't men approach? Why are men perfectly happy being single while I'm miserable? Why is every decent guy either taken, gay, or completely checked out? And the best part is they ask these questions with genuine confusion, as if the last 50 years of cultural messaging never happened. They were told from kindergarten all the way through university that men were the problem, that marriage was oppression. A woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle, and that female happiness comes from career, girlfriends, wine nights, and casual hookups. They swallowed that message whole, repeated it proudly, tattooed it on their bodies, put it in their dating profiles, and screamed it from rooftops. And now, when the predictable outcome finally arrives, they act shocked that the fish actually learned how to live on land without the bicycle. But here is where the story gets even darker, because the consequences are no longer theoretical or 5 years down the road. They are here right now and they are brutal. Women who spent their 20s and early 30s chasing the strong, independent fantasy are suddenly staring at 35, 38, 42 with no husband, no children, no savings, and a resume full of social media manager and brand ambassador jobs that pay just enough to cover rent and DoorDash. Their phones have stopped buzzing with new matches. The guys who used to blow up their DMs are now the same guys posting gym selfies and passport stamps with captions like peace is priceless. And the few men who are still willing to date are either 28-year-old players looking for something casual or 50-year-old divorcees who already lost everything once and will never legally commit again. The dating market has flipped from a buyer's market for women into the harshest seller's market men have ever experienced. And women are learning in real time what scarcity actually feels like. I want you to picture a woman who, 10 years ago, had 50 new likes a day on Tinder, endless orbiters paying for her drinks, and the ability to reject 99% of men while telling herself she was raising her standards. Fast forward to today, and that same woman is swiping for hours to get maybe 3 matches a week, all from men who open with, hey, beautiful, and then vanish the moment she mentions wanting something serious. She goes to bars and restaurants and notices that groups of men no longer look up from their conversation when she walks by. She posts thirst traps on Instagram, and the only comments come from other women or bots. She tells herself it's because men are intimidated by strong women, but deep down she knows the truth. Men simply stopped caring about female approval because they discovered life is better without the drama, the criticism, the financial bleeding, and the constant threat of having their entire world detonated the moment she gets bored or finds herself. And before anyone thinks I'm exaggerating, let me drop some cold, hard data on you that nobody in mainstream media wants to talk about. In the United States, the General Social Survey, which has been tracking happiness for 50 years, now shows that single childless women are the least happy demographic in the entire country for the first time in recorded history. Married men remain the happiest group, followed by married women, followed by single men, with single childless women dead last, and the gap is widening every single year. In the United Kingdom, the Office for National Statistics published a report in 2024 showing that women aged 30 to 45 who never married or had children report loneliness levels higher than any other group, including elderly widows. In Australia, the Institute of Family Studies found that the number of women seeking mental health treatment for anxiety and depression spiked 40% in the 5 years following the mass male withdrawal from the dating market. These are not fringe blogs making these numbers up. These are government and academic institutions admitting that the You Go Girl experiment has produced the most miserable generation of women in modern history. And yet, instead of looking in the mirror, the coping mechanisms have gone into overdrive. We now have an entire cottage industry of content creators, life coaches, therapists, and influencers whose full time job is telling 35-year-old single women that they are actually thriving, that being alone is empowerment, that men are trash, that biological clocks are a myth, that freezing eggs at 40 is just as good as having children is at 28, that a dog and a wine is the same as a husband and kids. And the craziest part is these women desperately want to believe it because the alternative, admitting that they were sold a lie that destroyed their one chance at the life they secretly wanted all along, is too painful to face. So they double down. They attack men harder. They demand government fix the problem. They scream that men need to be forced back into relationships. And every time they do it, just pushes men even further away. Because here is the secret nobody wants to say out loud. Men do not hate women. Most men still love women. Most men still find women beautiful and fascinating and would love to build something real. What men hate is the deal on the table. Men hate the 50% plus divorce rate where they lose their children, their home, their savings, and their reputation the moment she decides she's not happy anymore. Men hate the family court system that treats them like a criminal for wanting to see their own kids. Men hate the cultural message that they are defective if they don't earn six figures while simultaneously being told their only value is their wallet. Men hate being told they are toxic for having boundaries, hate being called insecure for wanting loyalty, hate being ridiculed for wanting a feminine woman who actually respects them. No sane man looks at that deal and says, "Sign me up." Only men who were raised without fathers or who never saw the aftermath up close are still walking into the trap. And even they are waking up faster than ever before. Let me tell you a story that perfectly illustrates how fast the awakening is spreading. I know a guy, let's call him Mark, 42 years old, successful business owner, great father to two teenage daughters, married for 18 years. Classic provider type, worked 60-hour weeks, paid for the nice house, the private schools, the vacations, never cheated, barely drank, went to every dance recital and soccer game. His wife spent the last 10 years getting deeper and deeper into the wine mom Instagram culture, started talking about finding herself, went on girls' trips every other month, gained 50 pounds, stopped being intimate, and began openly criticizing him in front of their friends. Last year, she told him she wanted an open marriage because monogamy is outdated. Mark said no, and she filed for divorce 2 weeks later, fully expecting to get the house, the kids, and lifetime alimony like all her friends did. Except Mark had been quietly paying attention to the red pill world for years. He had already moved assets into crypto, had recordings of her admitting she wanted to sleep with other men, had documented every dollar he earned versus what she contributed, and had a shark attorney on speed dial. When the judge saw the evidence, Mark walked away with 50-50 as custody, no alimony, and the majority of his retirement intact. He now lives in a waterfront condo, dates women in their late 20s who treat him like a king, and sees his daughters every week. His ex wife is renting a 2-bedroom apartment with her mother, working part time at a yoga studio, and posting on Facebook about how some men can't handle a strong woman. Mark is the happiest he has ever been in his entire life, and every single one of his married friends watched what happened, saw that walking away is actually possible, and 3 of them have already filed papers themselves. That is how this spreads. One real world example at a time. One man who proves the blueprint works, and then the dominoes start falling faster than any government or media narrative can stop them. And now multiply that story by millions. That is what is happening right now across the United States, Canada, the UK, Australia, Western Europe, and even in countries like Japan, South Korea, and now China, where traditional pressure to marry used to be unbreakable. The internet connected men in a way that has never existed before in human history. For the first time ever, a 40-year-old factory worker in Ohio can go online and talk to a software engineer in Sydney and a small business owner in Manchester and realize they are all experiencing the exact same disrespect, the exact same legal threats, the exact same emotional manipulation, and the exact same lack of appreciation. And once men realize it is not them, it is the system, the decision to opt out becomes the easiest choice in the world. And this is where the rage from certain corners becomes almost comical. You have politicians and talking heads standing up in front of cameras demanding that men step up and take responsibility while simultaneously supporting every policy that makes taking responsibility suicidal for men. They want men to marry women who have slept with dozens of men and then shame them for having standards. They want men to risk half their life savings on a woman who can divorce them for unhappiness with no fault required. They want men to pay 80% of taxes and then tell them they have privilege. They want men to protect women from danger and then arrest them if they defend themselves too aggressively. They want men to be traditional when it benefits women and modern when it benefits women, and then act confused when men finally say hard pass. Look at what just happened in South Korea. The fertility rate there is now 0.72 children per woman, the lowest in recorded human history. The government has spent over $300 billion in the last 18 years trying to bribe people to have babies, free housing, cash payments, tax breaks, everything you can imagine. And it did almost nothing. Young Korean men have completely checked out. They call it the 4B movement. On the male side, no dating, no marriage, no sex, no children. Korean women went viral a few years ago for proudly declaring they were done with men entirely. And Korean men looked at them, looked at the divorce laws, looked at the military conscription that only applies to men, looked at the 80-hour work weeks required to afford a tiny apartment in Seoul, and collectively shrugged and said, okay, cool, we're done too. Now, both sides are miserable and blaming each other while the entire country heads toward demographic collapse in slow motion. That is what happens when you destroy the incentive structure for family formation and then act shocked when nobody wants to play the game anymore. The same pattern is repeating everywhere. Japan has herbivore men who haven't dated in years and don't want to. Scandinavia has the highest percentage of single households on Earth, even though they have the most generous welfare states. Germany just published a study showing that 42% of men under 30 have no interest in a relationship at all. Spain and Italy are seeing entire towns with no children being born for years at a time. This is not a glitch. This is the new normal, and it is spreading to every corner of the planet that adopted Western feminist ideology. And the coping from the legacy institutions is reaching levels of desperation that would be hilarious if it weren't so tragic. Magazines that spent decades telling women to never settle and live your truth are now publishing articles with headlines like, maybe we were too harsh on men, and it's okay to want marriage after all. Universities that pumped out gender studies, graduates by the millions, are quietly closing those departments because nobody wants to hire them. Dating apps are bleeding male users so fast that they have started running ads begging men to come back, literally showing sad women sitting alone with captions like, "She's waiting for you." Governments are floating ideas like taxing single men extra, forcing men to pay into funds for single mothers, or even suggesting that child support should start at conception, whether the man wants the child or not. Every single one of these ideas gets shot down the moment it goes public because even normies can smell the desperation. But the fact they are even discussing it behind closed doors tells you how bad the panic has become. And because here's the part that keeps power structures up at night. Once men discover that peace, freedom, and self respect are possible, there is no bribe big enough to drag them back into the cage. You can offer tax breaks. You can offer guaranteed custody. You can offer free housing. You can put the hottest 25 apply-year-old virgins on every billboard with a sign saying, "Marry me and win $1 million." And the men who have already tasted freedom will still choose the studio apartment and the gym membership and the crypto wallet and the passport full of stamps because they know the moment they sign that marriage certificate, the rules can change overnight, the goalposts can move, and the same society that begged them to come back will turn around and destroy them the moment it no longer needs them. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me for 50 years across every institution in society, and I'm never playing again. This is why the divorce tsunami we are watching right now is only the beginning. The men walking away today are the trailing edge of the wave. The leading edge is the millions of young men who watch their fathers get destroyed, watch their mothers become entitled and miserable, watch the culture spit on everything masculine, and decided before they even turned 25 that marriage, kids, and traditional life are simply not on the menu. They are building wealth quietly, staying jacked, traveling the world, and living lives that make the old success script look like voluntary slavery. And the more women scream about it, the more media outlets rage about it, the more governments try to shame or bribe them, the deeper these men dig in and the wider they smile. And I want you to really let this next part hit you in the chest. In less than one generation, we have gone from a world where men begged women for commitment to a world where women are begging men for commitment and being ignored. That is not a small cultural shift. That is a complete inversion of the most fundamental power dynamic in human civilization. For thousands of years, kings waged wars, built empires, and rewrote laws just to secure access to women and family lines. Today, average men with a laptop and an internet connection can have abundance, peace, and options that would have made ancient emperors weep with envy. And they are choosing that over the privilege of becoming a modern husband. That is raw, unstoppable power shifting in real time. And no amount of crying on TikTok or emergency legislation can reverse it. What we are watching is the death of one social contract and the birth of another, and the people who benefited most from the old contract are the ones screaming loudest while it burns. But here's the part almost nobody is ready to hear. Men are not coming back to save the old system. We are building a new one. A system where peace is the highest value, where self respect is non negotiable, where a man's time, energy, and resources belong to him first and anyone else second. A system where loyalty is rewarded, disrespect is met with immediate withdrawal, and no one is entitled to another person's sacrifice just because they were born with certain body parts. That system is already here for millions of us, and every single day, more men join because they see with their own eyes that it works. The women who figure this out first, the ones who drop the entitlement, bring genuine respect, femininity, loyalty, and peace to the table. Those women are still finding great men and building beautiful families. They are the quiet winners right now, and their numbers are small but growing. The rest are going to learn the hard way that the era of using men as utility objects while offering nothing but demands and criticism is over. You can cry about it, you can rage about it, you can write 1,000 think pieces about how unfair it is, but reality does not negotiate. So when you see another video of a woman crying about inflation and rent and where are all the men, understand what you are really watching: the sound of a social paradigm dying in real time. When you see another government frantically changing laws to protect men back into marriage, understand they are flailing against a tsunami with a paper towel. When you see another article claiming men are lost or broken or immature for choosing peace over chaos, understand too late trying to shame men into lighting themselves on fire to keep someone else warm. The fire has already gone out, and men are walking away to build something new with the ashes. And the craziest part is that most people still think this is just about dating apps or a few bitter guys on the internet. They have no idea that the withdrawal has already moved far beyond relationships and is now reshaping the entire economy, the workforce, the housing market, the birth rate, the political landscape of cities, and even the way nations defend themselves. When millions of men decide that maximum peace and minimum obligation is the new prime directive, the ripple effects hit everything. And we are only in year 5 or 6 of seeing those ripples turn into tidal waves. Let us talk about the economy first, because money always wakes people up faster than feelings ever do. For the last 70 years, the entire consumer economy was built on one core assumption: that men would get married, have 2.3 kids, buy the biggest house they could afford, finance 2 cars, pay for private schools, fund Disney vacations, and keep upgrading their lifestyle every few years to keep their wife happy and the kids in the latest sneakers. That engine powered everything from Home Depot to Apple to the entire credit card industry. And right now, that engine is coughing black smoke and grinding to a halt because the primary fuel, male provider energy, just got turned off at the source. Single men spend completely differently than married men. Married men drop 30 to 50 grand a year keeping a family afloat. Single men who have been through the system or watched it up close spend money on 4 things: the gym, experiences, investments, and freedom. They buy used cars with cash so nobody can ever repo them. They rent studio apartments in walkable areas or buy small condos outright. They eat chicken and rice 6 days a week and then blow 2 grand on a long weekend in Miami or Prague with the boys. They put every extra dollar into Bitcoin, index funds, or their own side business. They do not care about stainless steel appliances, school districts, or keeping up with the neighbors because they have no neighbors they are trying to impress and no wife posting pictures of a kitchen remodel they cannot afford. Retail analysts are already sounding the alarm behind closed doors. Big box furniture stores are seeing sales crater because single men buy a couch once every 10 years, and it is usually from Facebook Marketplace. Wedding related industries have lost billions in the last 5 years. Dress shops, venues, photographers, planners, all bleeding out. New home construction for the 4 bedroom colonial with the white picket fence is stalling out, while micro condo and bachelor pad high rise projects cannot keep up with demand. Car companies that relied on men trading in their truck every 3 years for a minivan are watching those same men keep their paid off Tacoma for 15 years and spend the money on a dual sport motorcycle instead. The people at the top know exactly why this is happening, but they cannot say it out loud because admitting that men walking away is tanking the economy would cause a panic bigger than 2008. And it is not just consumer spending, it is the labor market too. Companies built entire business models around the idea that men would work soul crushing overtime because they had a mortgage and braces and college tuition to pay. Now, millions of those same men are looking at their bosses and saying, "Why exactly am I killing myself for your bonus when I go home to an empty apartment and a freezer full of steak?" Quiet quitting has turned into loud quitting. Men are leaving corporate jobs in record numbers, taking 6 month sabbaticals, moving to cheaper cities, starting one man businesses, or just stacking enough crypto to work 20 hours a week from a laptop on the beach. Productivity statistics look fine on paper because the remaining workers are scared. But the best talent, the driven, high testosterone guys who used to build everything, are increasingly nowhere to be found between 9 and 5. Governments are feeling it in the tax base. Single men with no dependents pay the least amount of tax relative to income because they have almost no deductions and almost no consumption that feeds sales tax. Married men with kids are the golden geese because every dollar they earn gets taxed and then immediately spent in ways that generate more tax. When those golden geese start disappearing, the whole system starts to wobble. Politicians look at the numbers, realize the only way to keep revenue growing is to import more people or raise rates on the men who are still working, and both of those options make the remaining men even more determined to check out. It is a death spiral wearing a suit and tie. Now layer on the military recruitment crisis and watch the panic go nuclear. Every major Western military is missing recruiting goals by double-digit percentages. And the number one reason young men give in exit surveys is, I don't want to die for a country that hates me. Think about that. The same societies that spent 20 years telling men they are toxic, that masculinity is a problem, that they need to sit down and shut up, are now confused why those same men will not volunteer to take a bullet for that society. The Pentagon has had to lower physical standards, raise age limits, allow serious medical waivers, and still cannot fill boots. Same story in the UK, Australia, Canada, Germany, everywhere. They are running ads showing soldiers hugging their daughters and talking about mental health because the old be a hero, get respect messaging no longer works when everybody knows returning veterans get called colonizers and have their benefits cut while illegal immigrants get hotel rooms. And do not think for a second this is just a Western problem. Russia tried to draft hundreds of thousands of men in 2022 and watched tens of thousands of military age males flee the country overnight rather than fight. China is staring down the barrel of a 1.7 to 1 male to female ratio in the younger cohorts and realizing they have millions of men who have zero stake in the system because they will never have a wife or children. North Korea, the most controlled society on earth, is reportedly having trouble getting men to show up for mandatory service because even there, the black market internet has shown them life is bigger than the regime. When men no longer believe protecting the tribe will earn them a family or respect, the tribe becomes extremely fragile, extremely fast. Every single one of these dominoes traces back to the same original fracture. The moment society decided that male sacrifice was mandatory, but male reward was optional. The moment feminists and politicians and media figures started saying men need to do better, while simultaneously removing every incentive for men to do anything at all. You can only push a man so far before his survival instinct overrides his provider instinct, and once that switch flips, it does not flip back. Nature spent 3 million years wiring men to protect and provide for women and children who respect them and need them. Remove the respect and the need, replace it with criticism and replacement level fertility and the circuit breaker trips. We are not broken. We are responding exactly the way biology designed us to respond when the deal goes bad. And the response is global, instantaneous, and growing. Let me tell you about a kid I mentored a few years ago. Let us call him Alex, 24 years old now. Grew up in a small Midwestern town, good family. Dad was a lineman, mom stayed home, classic blue collar American life. Alex was the kid who had college scholarships, started a landscaping business in high school, saved every penny, planned to get married at 25, have 4 kids, buy a house with a yard, the whole script. Then his older sister got married at 22, cheated with some DJ, divorced the husband at 20 months later, got the house, primary custody, and lifetime alimony, even though she never worked a day in her life. Alex watched his brother-in-law, a stand-up guy who coached Little League, lose everything in 9 months. Watched his parents mortgage their own house to pay the legal fees. watched his sister buy a new SUV and go on girls' trips while the ex slept in his mom's basement. Alex looked at all of it, closed his college savings account, bought Bitcoin and a one-way ticket to Thailand, and has been living in Southeast Asia for 3 years, making six figures remote while dating models and sending his parents 5 grand a month to pay off that mortgage. He told me last week he feels zero guilt because if the game is going to rig itself against men, then I'm going to play a different game entirely. That kid is not an outlier anymore. He is the new archetype. Millions of young men are looking at the world their fathers inherited, saying no thank you, and building something new before they even turn 30. And the women who enabled the rigging are now the ones standing in the wreckage, wondering why the house is on fire. They spent years celebrating every divorce rape story as empowerment, every viral clip of a woman destroying a man as girl power, every new law that punished male commitment as progress. They clapped when the culture told men to man up while stripping them of any authority in their own homes. And now that the predictable outcome has arrived, they want sympathy, they want solutions, they want men to fix it. But there is too late for that. The trust is gone. The social contract is shredded, and no amount of crying on camera or emergency legislation can glue it back together. Because peace is addictive. Once a man has lived without constant criticism, without the eggshell walking, without the financial hemorrhage, without the threat of having his children weaponized against him, going back feels like volunteering to return to prison after tasting freedom. I have talked to men who lost 90% of their net worth in divorce and still say it was the best money they ever spent because the remaining 10% buys them a life that feels like winning the lottery every single day. That is not hyperbole. That is the new baseline. So when you see another headline about falling birth rates, or another general complaining about recruitment, or another economist warning about slowing consumption, or another woman posting a tearful video asking where all the good men went, understand you are not watching isolated problems. You are watching symptoms of the same underlying disease. A civilization that declared war on its own men and is now shocked to discover the men surrendered. Not with a bang, not with violence, but with the most devastating weapon nature ever gave us, the ability to simply walk away and build something better. And the best part, the part that makes me smile every single morning when I wake up, is that we are just getting started. Every day, another 1,000 men wake up and make the same decision. Every day, another 100,000 boys turn 18 and look at the world they are being offered and say, hard pass. Every day, the new system gets stronger, the old one gets weaker, and the gap between what women want and what men are willing to give grows wider. This is not a phase. This is not a correction. This is the new equilibrium, and it is being written by men who finally, for the first time in history, have options. The old world took everything from us and gave us nothing but contempt in return. The new world is being built one quiet, determined man at a time, and it is going to be glorious. And the most beautiful part of all of this is that the new world we are building is not being built out of hate. It is being built out of love. Love for ourselves, love for peace, love for brotherhood, love for the kind of life our grandfathers only dreamed about while they were freezing in foxholes or breaking their backs in coal mines so their wives could have washing machines and their kids could go to college. We are the first generation of men in history who looked at the script we were handed and said, you know what? I love myself more than I love that nightmare. And once you truly love yourself, once you know what it feels like to wake up every single day with zero dread, zero eggshells, zero fear, that one wrong text message could cost you your house, your kids, your reputation, and your future. There is no force on earth strong enough to drag you backward. I want you to picture something with me for a second. Picture a 35-year-old guy right now. Maybe he is you. Maybe he is your brother, your best friend, your son. 5 years ago, he was miserable, overweight, in debt, married to a woman who treated him like a walking disappointment, coming home every night to silence or criticism, lying awake wondering how he was going to pay for the next round of braces or the next vacation she demanded. Today, that same man is 50 pounds lighter, debt free, living in a paid off condo with a view, passport full of stamps, bank account growing every month, sleeping 8 hours a night, surrounded by other men who have his back, dating women who smile when he walks into the room, or happily single and unbothered either way. He did not win the lottery. He did not find a magic pill. He simply made one decision. I'm done trading my life for people who do not value it and then followed through. That story is playing out in every city, every country, every income bracket, every single day now. And every time one man pulls it off, 10 more watch and realize it is possible for them too. That is why the real revolution, not protests in the streets, not angry manifestos, just millions of individual men quietly choosing themselves and then living so well that the old system has no choice but to watch in horror as its foundation crumbles. The most powerful statement a man can make in 2025 is not yelling. It is smiling while he deadlifts 4 plates, boards a flight to Colombia with his boys, sends his mom a surprise 5 grand wire, and then goes to sleep without setting an alarm because tomorrow is Saturday and he has zero obligations to anyone but himself. That smile terrifies the old order more than any riot ever could, because you cannot arrest a smile, you cannot shame a smile, you cannot tax a smile, and you definitely cannot guilt a smile back into the cage. And women feel it. They feel the energy shift even when they cannot explain it. That is why you see so many of them spiraling on social media right now. They sense that the old power they were promised, the power that came from being the gatekeepers of family and commitment, is evaporating in real time. They were told their entire lives that men would always chase, always provide, always cave, always come back, no matter how poorly they were treated, because men need sex and men can't be alone. And now they are staring at an entire generation of men who looked at sex with a resentful, entitled woman and said, I'll pass, looked at being alone and said, this is actually paradise, and looked at the old deal and laughed all the way to the gym and the airport. The panic you see in those tearful videos is not just about being single, it is the sound of a caste waking up and realizing the throne they were sitting on was built on male tolerance, and that tolerance just ran out. I want you to really grasp how complete the inversion has become. 20 years ago, a man who walked away from a bad marriage was called a deadbeat, a loser, a failure, shunned by his family, dragged through the mud by the courts, and financially destroyed for life. Today, that same man is celebrated by other men as a hero, mentored by older guys who already on the other side, supported by entire online communities that teach him how to protect his assets, rebuild his body, and never make the same mistake twice. The information is free, the role models are everywhere, and the path is so well worn now that even teenagers are following it before they ever get near a marriage license. We went from total isolation to total brotherhood in less than a decade. And that brotherhood is unbreakable because it is built on the one thing the old system could never control: lived experience. You can lie to a boy with charts and slogans. You cannot lie to a man who has already seen his best friend lose his house to a woman who cheated with the neighbor and still got rewarded by a judge. That brotherhood is why the shaming language no longer works. Call us immature. Call us man children. Call us afraid of strong women. Call us whatever new insult gets cooked up this week. We have heard it all before, and we are still sleeping like babies while the people throwing the insults are popping antidepressants and begging strangers on the internet for validation. The script flipped, and the new script says, your opinion of me is none of my business. That single sentence has freed more men in the last 5 years than every self-help book ever written. And the freedom is spreading faster than any government or media outlet can track. Men are moving to low-tax states and countries in waves. Florida, Texas, Tennessee, Dubai, Thailand, Colombia, Portugal, entire cities are being reshaped by an influx of high earning, high testosterone single men who bring money, start businesses, lift at the local gyms, and never complain about the dating scene because they are too busy living. Real estate agents in these places will tell you off the record that the new buyers are almost all single guys in their 30s and 40s with cash, no debt, and zero interest in school districts. The local economies are booming because these men spend money on experiences, fitness, and investments instead of daycare and divorce attorneys. Politicians in those places quietly love it because the tax base grows without any of the social problems that come from broken families. The places that keep demonizing men are watching their most productive citizens pack U-Hauls and planes, and there is nothing they can do to stop it because freedom of movement is still, for now, the one right they cannot fully take away. That is the next phase we are already entering: geographic arbitrage on a civilizational scale. Men are voting with their feet, moving to wherever the deal for men is the best, and leaving the places that treat them the worst to collapse under their own ideology. You want to tax me at 60% and tell me I'm the problem? Cool. I'll be in Puerto Rico with a 0% capital gains rate and sunshine 300 days a year. You want to keep the family courts weaponized and the culture hostile? Enjoy your crumbling infrastructure while I build on a beach in Bali with the money I used to send to an ex-wife? You want to keep importing millions of military age males who get free everything while I get called privileged for being born here? Say less. My new passport is already in the mail. The exits are wide open. The information is free. And the planes are cheap. Good luck running a first world society when every man who can do math has already left or is planning his exit. And here is the part that almost nobody is ready to hear, but it is already happening in small pockets and it is about to explode. Men are starting to build intentional parallel societies: private men's clubs, co-living compounds, mastermind retreats, offshore communities, digital nomad hubs, all male investment syndicates, gym chains that double as brotherhood hubs, places where men can live, work, train, invest, and support each other without ever having to justify their existence to a culture that hates them. These are not weird compounds in the woods with bunkers. These are high-end 6 and 7 figure communities springing up in places like Miami, Austin, Dubai, and Medellin, where the membership requirements are simple: be a man, add value, respect the code, and leave the drama at the door. Women are welcome as guests, never as residents, because the entire point is a space where men can finally breathe them without constant judgment. Thousands of men are already living this way part-time or full-time, and the waiting lists are years long. This is not coping, this is winning. Imagine a place where you wake up, hit an ice bath with 20 other high-performing guys, train together, eat steak cooked by a private chef, talk about crypto gains and real estate deals, then spend the afternoon working on your business while someone else handles laundry and groceries. Evenings are cigars on the rooftop, deep conversations about purpose and legacy, maybe a date with a feminine woman who is happy you exist, or just cards and whiskey with the boys. No nagging, no passive aggressive comments, no fear that someone is secretly recording you for clout. Just peace 24 hours a day, surrounded by brothers who would take a bullet for you. That is not a fantasy. That exists right now today. And it is growing so fast that the people running the old system do not even know it is happening yet. When they finally figure it out, it will be too late. The best men will already be gone. And the places they left behind will be left with the men who could not or would not leave. And good luck rebuilding anything with that. Because that is the final stage of the walkaway: total detachment. Not just from women, not just from marriage, but from the entire matrix that was built on male sacrifice without reward. We are detaching from consumer debt, from soul-crushing jobs, from propaganda news, from taxes that fund our own destruction, from cities that hate us, from countries that hate us. We are building wealth that cannot be touched, bodies that cannot be broken, brotherhoods that cannot be infiltrated, and lives that cannot be threatened. And we are doing it with smiles on our faces because for the first time in history, men have both the knowledge and the tools to live like kings without needing permission from anyone. That is the legacy of this moment. Not bitterness, not revenge, not legacy. A world where the next generation of boys grows up watching their fathers and uncles and big brothers live free, strong, happy, and untouchable. And they never even consider signing up for the old plantation. A world where the default setting for a man is peace first, everything else second. A world where loyalty is earned, respect is required, and no man ever again feels forced to set himself on fire to keep someone else warm. We are not asking for the old system to be fixed. We are replacing it. One man, one decision, one lifted weight, one saved dollar, one plane ticket, one brotherhood handshake at a time. And when historians look back at this period, 100 years from now, they will not write about the women crying on TikTok or the politicians scrambling to pass emergency laws. They will write about the quiet moment when men all over the planet looked at each other across borders and languages and cultures, nodded once, and simply walked away. And in walking away, we changed everything. So if you're watching this and you are still stuck in the old script, still grinding for people who do not respect you, still hoping the next girl will be different, still believing that if you just work harder, the system will finally reward you, hear me clearly. The door is wide open. The path is lit. Millions of us are already on the other side, living better than any generation of men who ever came before us. All you have to do is choose yourself, protect your peace, build your body, stack your money, find your brothers, and never apologize for wanting respect, and start walking. The water is warm, the air is clean, and the life you were told you could never have is waiting for you the second you decide you deserve it. That is the message. That is the movement. That is the future we are building right now, today, with every rep, every dollar, every stamp in the passport, every brotherhood handshake. All roads lead to MWA, men walking away. And when enough of us get there, the old world will finally be forced to admit what we already know. A society that hates its men does not get to keep them. It gets to watch them leave, and then it gets to deal with whatever is left. We chose peace. We chose brotherhood. We chose legacy. And we are never, ever coming back. What did you think about all of this? Do you agree that we have passed the point of no return, or do you think there is still a way to put this back together? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWA, men walking away, and cheers.
Nothing says you care like crypto. Nothing can compare. Nothing says you care like crypto. Oh, nothing can compare to crypto.